There's a war happening inside you right now. Not metaphorically, literally. Your primitive brain versus your higher consciousness. Your animal impulses versus your human potential. And the battlefield, your sexuality. Every single day you face a choice. Give in to immediate gratification or build something greater. Most men choose the easy path. They wake up, they scroll, they stimulate, they release, they feel shame, they promise to change, and then they repeat the cycle tomorrow, day after day, year after year. Their entire lives passing by in this loop of weakness. But there's another way. A path that every great man in history has walked, from Marcus Aurelius to Nikola Tesla, from ancient Shaolin monks to modern Navy SEALs. They all discovered the same secret. Master your sexual energy, and you master your life. This isn't about religion. This isn't about morality. This is about power, pure, concentrated, life-changing power. And it starts with one decision: to retain. Let's be clear about what we're talking about. Semen retention is the practice of avoiding ejaculation, either completely or for extended periods. It can be practiced by celibate men who avoid all sexual activity, or by sexually active men who learn techniques to experience orgasm without ejaculation. But calling it just not ejaculating is like calling meditation just sitting. You're missing the entire point. Semen retention is a gateway practice. It's the entry point into self-mastery. Because if you can't control the most powerful biological urge you have, what can you control? If you can't resist an urge that exists only in your mind, triggered by pixels on a screen, how will you resist anything real? Your semen isn't just reproductive fluid. Biologically, it contains your genetic material, concentrated nutrients, hormones, and energy. Spiritually, it's been called your life force, your vital essence, your creative power. Ancient texts describe it as liquid potential, the raw material from which you can build anything. Every time you ejaculate, you're spending this potential. You're choosing 15 seconds of pleasure over days of elevated energy, mental clarity, and drive. And most men make this trade without even thinking about it. To understand why retention is so powerful, you need to understand what's happening in your brain during sexual activity. Your brain has a reward system. It's designed to motivate you toward behaviors that help you survive and reproduce. When you do something beneficial, eat food, accomplish a goal, have sex, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine makes you feel good. It says, yes, do that again. But modern pornography has hijacked this system completely. Your brain evolved over millions of years when sexual opportunity was rare. Seeing a naked woman meant a real chance to reproduce, so your brain would flood you with dopamine to motivate you to act. Now you can see thousands of naked women in an hour. Your primitive brain can't tell the difference between pixels and reality, so it dumps dopamine. Massive amounts. More than you'd get from actual sex. More than you'd get from achieving real goals. More than almost anything natural. And then you ejaculate. Dopamine crashes. Prolactin spikes. You feel depleted, ashamed, unmotivated. But within hours or days, your brain starts craving that dopamine hit again. The cycle repeats. Over time, your dopamine receptors downregulate. You become numb to normal pleasures. Real life seems boring. Real women seem less attractive. Real achievements seem pointless. You need increasingly extreme content just to feel something. This is literally the same neurological process as drug addiction. And it's destroying your motivation, your drive, your ability to do hard things. When you practice retention, you break this cycle. Your dopamine system begins to reset. Normal activities become rewarding again. You start getting dopamine from real accomplishments, from genuine human connection, from delayed gratification. Self-discipline, the real superpower, 7 to 10. But here's what most people miss about semen retention. The benefits aren't mainly physical. They're not even mainly biochemical. They're psychological. The real transformation happens in your relationship with discipline itself. Think about it. Sexual urge is one of the most powerful forces you'll ever experience. It's biological, it's constant, and it's reinforced by literally everything in modern culture. Resisting it requires real willpower, sustained willpower, daily willpower. When you successfully resist this urge, when you feel the desire, acknowledge it, and choose not to act, you're building your discipline muscle. You're proving to yourself that you're not a slave to impulse, that you can feel something and not do it, that your conscious mind can override your primitive brain. This is transformative. Because once you develop this capacity with sexual urges, it generalizes to everything else. That's why practitioners of retention consistently report improvements in every area of life. They're not just conserving semen. They're becoming disciplined people, and disciplined people win. The philosopher William James said that the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Semen retention teaches you this ability in the most challenging possible arena. It's discipline training at the highest difficulty level. Most people's lives are controlled by their urges. They eat when they crave. They sleep when they're tired. They check their phone when they're bored. They seek pleasure when they're uncomfortable. They're reactive, controlled, weak. Retention makes you proactive, controlled, strong. You become someone who acts from choice, not compulsion. And that changes everything. Let's talk about what happens in your body when you retain. First, testosterone. Multiple studies have shown that testosterone levels spike around day 7 of abstinence, increasing by up to 45% from baseline. After the initial spike, levels stabilize at a higher baseline than before. Now, testosterone isn't just about muscles and aggression. Testosterone affects confidence, motivation, assertiveness, bone density, fat distribution, mood, and cognitive function. Higher testosterone makes you feel more like a man, more capable, more ready to face challenges. But it's not just about higher testosterone. It's about hormonal balance. When you ejaculate frequently, especially to pornography, you create hormonal chaos. Dopamine spikes and crashes. Prolactin surges. Cortisol elevates from the stress and shame. Your endocrine system is constantly reacting, recovering, compensating. Retention creates stability. Your hormones normalize. Your body isn't constantly recovering from the hormonal roller coaster of frequent ejaculation. This stability translates to stable mood, stable energy, stable motivation. Many men report that after several weeks of retention, they wake up with consistent morning wood again, something they'd lost after years of pornography and frequent ejaculation. This is a sign of hormonal recovery, of your body returning to its natural, healthy state. There's also evidence that retention affects androgen receptors, the cellular mechanisms that respond to testosterone. Some researchers suggest that frequent ejaculation downregulates these receptors, meaning your cells become less sensitive to testosterone. Retention may upregulate them, making your existing testosterone more effective. The most commonly reported benefit of retention is increased energy. Not just physical energy, but mental and emotional energy too. Why? Several reasons. First, sperm production is metabolically expensive. Your body has to manufacture millions of sperm cells, along with the seminal fluid that nourishes and transports them. This requires significant resources: proteins, amino acids, zinc, selenium, vitamins, enzymes. When you ejaculate frequently, your body is constantly redirecting resources towards sperm production. When you retain, those resources become available for other purposes. Cellular repair, immune function, muscle building, brain function. Ancient traditions understood this intuitively. They described semen as containing your vital essence or life force. Modern nutritional analysis confirms that semen contains concentrated nutrients. One ejaculation contains approximately 200 to 500 million sperm cells, plus seminal fluid rich in nutrients. That's not insignificant. Second, there's the sleep factor. Many men report dramatically improved sleep quality during retention. They fall asleep faster, sleep deeper, and wake more refreshed. Better sleep alone would account for significant energy improvements. But when you combine it with nutrient conservation and hormonal optimization, the effect compounds. Third, there's what practitioners describe as transmutation of sexual energy. When sexual energy builds but isn't released, it doesn't just sit there. Practitioners report feeling it as a kind of internal pressure or heat, particularly in the lower abdomen. Through movement, exercise, breath work, or creative activity, this energy can be redirected. Men who retain consistently describe having access to reserves of energy they didn't know existed. They can work longer hours without fatigue. They can train harder without overtraining. They have energy left at the end of the day for creative projects, family time, or personal development. Athletes have known about the connection between sexual activity and performance for centuries. That's why coaches used to separate male athletes from female athletes before major competitions. That's why boxers abstain before fights. The research on this is mixed, partly because it's difficult to study and partly because the effects are subtle and individual. But anecdotal reports from athletes are overwhelming and consistent. Strength athletes report increased aggression and intensity during training. Endurance athletes report better sustained energy and faster recovery. Combat athletes report sharper reflexes and better pain tolerance. Why would retention improve physical performance? Several mechanisms. First, testosterone and aggression. Higher testosterone increases competitive drive and willingness to push through discomfort. This translates directly to training harder and competing more effectively. Second, recovery. Deep sleep, stable hormones, and nutrient conservation all support faster recovery between training sessions. This allows for higher training volume and frequency. Third, mental focus. Physical performance isn't just physical, it's mental. The ability to maintain focus during long competitions, to push through pain in the final moments, to execute technique under pressure, all of this requires mental discipline. And retention builds exactly that. There's also a phenomenon that athletes call nervous energy, or controlled aggression. After several weeks of retention, many men report feeling almost uncomfortably energized, like they need to move, to exert, to express physical power. This translates beautifully into training intensity. Recovery is particularly interesting. Multiple men have reported that injuries heal faster during retention periods. Muscle soreness decreases more quickly. Overtraining symptoms reduce. Is this placebo? Possibly. But the consistency of these reports across different individuals and different sports suggests something real is happening. Some of the more surprising reports from retention practitioners involve improved immune function and overall health. Men report getting sick less often. When they do get sick, they recover faster. Chronic conditions sometimes improve. Skin clears up. Hair and nails grow stronger. These are the kinds of effects that sound too good to be true, but they're reported too consistently to dismiss entirely. The mechanism could be simple. Your body has finite resources. When those resources aren't being constantly diverted to sperm production, they're available for other maintenance and repair functions. Your immune system operates more effectively. Your skin has access to better nutrition. Your body can invest in long-term health rather than constant reproductive readiness. There's also the stress factor. Frequent ejaculation, especially to pornography, creates stress. Shame, guilt, anxiety about being caught, frustration with lack of control, all of this elevates cortisol. Chronic stress suppresses immune function. Retention reduces this stress, potentially allowing immune function to normalize. One of the most dramatic and consistent benefits reported by retention practitioners is increased confidence. Not fake confidence, not bravado. Real, grounded, unshakable confidence. Men describe feeling more comfortable in their own skin, more willing to make eye contact, less apologetic for existing, more assertive in expressing their needs and boundaries, less concerned with others' approval. Where does this come from? Multiple sources. First, there's self-respect. Every time you successfully resist an urge, you prove to yourself that you have self-control. You demonstrate that you can commit to something difficult and follow through. This builds genuine self-esteem, not the fake kind based on affirmations, but the real kind based on actual achievement. Second, there's the secret power effect. When you're retaining, you're carrying something that most men aren't. You're doing something difficult that most men can't do. You know something about yourself that others don't know about you. This creates a kind of quiet confidence, an internal knowing that you're operating at a different level. Third, there's the neurochemical component. The dopamine reset that happens during retention makes you less needy for external validation. When your dopamine system is fried from constant overstimulation, you become desperate for hits of pleasure, approval, distraction. When it resets, you become more internally referenced. You care less what others think because you're getting sufficient reward from your own standards and achievements. Fourth, there's body language. Testosterone affects posture, movement, voice tonality, facial expressions. Higher testosterone creates more dominant masculine body language automatically. You stand taller, you move with more purpose, your voice deepens slightly. These changes are subtle, but they're real, and other people unconsciously respond to them. Men consistently report that others, especially women, seem to notice them more during retention. The skeptics call this confirmation bias or placebo. The practitioners insist it's real. Whether it's pheromones, body language, or just the confidence that comes from self-mastery, something changes in how you're perceived. Brain fog is the plague of modern men. Difficulty concentrating, mental fatigue, forgetfulness, the inability to think deeply about complex problems. Many men accept this as normal. It's not normal. It's a symptom of dopamine dysregulation. Retention practitioners consistently report dramatic improvements in mental clarity. They describe it as a fog lifting. Thoughts become clearer, memory improves. The ability to focus on demanding cognitive tasks increases. Reading comprehension gets better. Problem solving becomes easier. Why? The dopamine reset is part of it. When your dopamine system is functioning normally, you can focus on difficult tasks because your brain rewards you appropriately for the effort. When it's dysregulated, only supernormal stimuli feel rewarding, so normal cognitive work feels unrewarding and difficult. There's also the distraction factor. When you're caught in the cycle of sexual compulsion, part of your mental bandwidth is always occupied with sexual thoughts, urges, plans for when and how you'll next indulge, or shame about having indulged. This is cognitive load. It uses up mental resources. When you practice retention, especially after you move through the initial difficult phase, the mental obsession with sex decreases dramatically. Suddenly you have mental bandwidth you didn't know you were missing. You can think about other things. You can focus deeply, without part of your mind wandering to sexual fantasies. Many men report being able to read for hours without distraction, something they hadn't been able to do in years. Others report breakthrough insights on problems they'd been stuck on. Others report improved performance at work, particularly on tasks requiring sustained concentration. There may also be a biological component. Some researchers suggest that the nutrients conserved through retention, particularly zinc, which is abundant in semen and crucial for brain function, may support better cognitive performance. The mood swings that come with frequent ejaculation are brutal. The high of anticipation and release, followed by the crash of depletion and shame, followed by the gradual build-up to the next episode. You're on an emotional roller coaster. Retention creates emotional stability. Men report feeling more even-keeled, less reactive, less prone to anxiety and depression, more resilient in the face of stress. Part of this is biochemical. Stable hormones create stable mood. When you're not constantly riding the dopamine, prolactin, cortisol wave, your emotional baseline stabilizes. Part of this is psychological. When you're in control of your urges, you feel in control of your life. This sense of agency reduces anxiety. When you're not carrying shame and guilt about compulsive behavior, your overall mood improves. There's also the energy factor. Depression and anxiety often manifest as low energy and rumination. When you have abundant physical and mental energy from retention, you're simply less vulnerable to these states. You're too busy actually doing things to spend hours ruminating. Many men report that retention helped them overcome clinical depression or severe anxiety, conditions they'd struggled with for years. Others report that it simply made them more pleasant to be around, less irritable, more patient with family members and co-workers. The emotional benefits often take longer to manifest than the physical ones. The first few weeks can actually be emotionally challenging as your brain adjusts. But men who push through consistently report that around the 30-day mark, they experience a profound shift in emotional baseline. This might be the most valuable benefit of all: increased motivation and drive to pursue meaningful goals. Men describe a kind of restless energy during retention, an inability to sit still, a compulsion to build, create, achieve, conquer. They start new projects. They attack existing projects with renewed intensity. They set bigger goals. They're willing to take bigger risks. This isn't just psychological, it's biochemical. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It's about motivation and reward anticipation. When your dopamine system is healthy, you feel motivated to pursue challenging goals because your brain appropriately rewards you for effort and progress. When your dopamine system is fried from overstimulation, you lose the ability to feel motivated by normal goals. They seem too hard, too far away, too unrewarding. Why spend months building a business when you can get instant pleasure from pornography? Retention resets this. Suddenly, real achievements become rewarding again. The dopamine hit from making progress on a meaningful project, from learning a new skill, from building something valuable. It becomes accessible again. There's also the opportunity cost factor. The average pornography user spends hours per week on sexual compulsion. Hours scrolling, searching, watching, recovering. When you eliminate this completely, you suddenly have massive amounts of time available. Time you can invest in actual goals. But it's not just about time. It's about mental and emotional energy. Even when you're not actively watching pornography, the compulsion occupies mental space. Plans, fantasies, urges, shame, all of this consumes energy. Eliminate it and that energy becomes available for productive pursuits. Men consistently report that during retention, they accomplish more in weeks than they had in previous months. They write books, they start businesses, they transform their bodies, they learn new skills. The same men, but with access to motivation and drive they didn't know they possessed. Many men report that retention opens doorway to spiritual experiences and a deeper sense of purpose. This surprises skeptics, but it makes sense when you understand the mechanism. Sexual energy and spiritual energy are the same energy at different levels of refinement. When you stop dissipating your life force through constant ejaculation, that energy accumulates. It seeks expression. For some men, this manifests as spontaneous meditative states. Moments of profound clarity or insight, a sense of connection to something larger than themselves. Some report experiences that sound mystical or transcendent. Sensations of energy moving through their body, visions during meditation. Moments of ego dissolution. You don't have to believe in chakras or kundalini to recognize that something real is happening here. The consistent reports across cultures and individuals suggest a genuine phenomenon. Beyond mystical experiences, many men report a shift in values and priorities. Things that used to seem important, money, status symbols, casual pleasures, lose their appeal. Things that used to seem distant or abstract, purpose, meaning, contribution, legacy, become compelling and real. It's as if the constant seeking of sexual pleasure kept them stuck in a shallow, materialistic mindset. Once that seeking stops, deeper questions emerge. What am I here for? What matters? What do I want to build or contribute? Who do I want to become? This can be disorienting. Some men realize their entire life has been organized around shallow pursuits. Their job, their relationships, their habits, all designed to support a lifestyle of comfort and stimulation, rather than growth and meaning. But it's also liberating, because once you see clearly, you can change. Men make radical life changes during extended retention periods, career changes, relationship changes, location changes, not impulsively, but from a place of clarity about what actually matters. Let's talk about what actually happens when you start practicing retention, because understanding the timeline helps you persist through the difficult phases. Days 1 to 7. The honeymoon phase. You're motivated. You feel good about your decision. You might even feel some immediate benefits, slightly better sleep, a sense of accomplishment. The urges are manageable because you're running on willpower and novelty. Days 7 to 14. The withdrawal phase. This is where most men fail. The urges intensify dramatically. Your brain is screaming for the dopamine hit it's addicted to. You'll experience every excuse. This is unhealthy. I need to release for prostate health. One time won't hurt. I'll start again tomorrow. These are all your addiction talking. You might experience physical symptoms: restlessness, difficulty sleeping, increased irritability, intrusive sexual thoughts. This is your brain rewiring. It's temporary, but it's intense. Days 14 to 21, the adjustment phase. If you make it past 2 weeks, things start to stabilize. The constant urges decrease in frequency and intensity. You start experiencing some real benefits: better energy, clearer thinking, more confidence. This gives you motivation to continue. Days 21 to 30. The breakthrough phase. Around 3 weeks, many men experience a dramatic shift. The brain fog lifts completely. Energy surges, confidence skyrockets. This is your dopamine system beginning to normalize. This is what you're working toward. The key to surviving the first 30 days is preparation and strategy. You can't just white-knuckle it. You need specific practices. First, eliminate triggers. Delete social media apps or use strict content filters. Unfollow accounts that post provocative images. Don't follow fitness models or celebrities who post revealing photos. Yes, even if everyone else does, you're not everyone else. You're someone who's serious about mastery. Stop watching movies or shows with sexual content. Stop reading erotica. If you're serious, you'll make these sacrifices. If you're not, you'll make excuses. Second, occupy your time and energy. The urges hit hardest when you're bored, tired, or stressed. So don't be bored. Have a list of activities ready. Reading, exercise, learning a skill, working on a project. When the urge hits, immediately pivot to one of these activities. Exercise is particularly powerful. Intense physical exercise burns off the restless energy that builds during retention. It also improves sleep, reduces stress, and gives you a healthy dopamine hit from real achievement. Third, practice urge surfing. When an urge arises, don't fight it or try to suppress it. Instead, observe it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice how it peaks and then subsides if you don't act on it. This practice builds the crucial skill of experiencing desire without reacting to it. 4. Use accountability. Tell someone you trust about your commitment. Join an online community of other men practicing retention. Having external accountability makes it harder to rationalize giving up. 5th, track your progress. Use a counter app or a physical calendar. There's something powerful about seeing the days accumulate. Each day becomes a small victory. Breaking a streak becomes more costly the longer you go. 6th, have a morning routine. The first hour after waking is when many men relapse. They're in bed, half asleep, their resistance is low. Have a routine that gets you out of bed immediately. Cold shower, exercise, meditation, breakfast. Create momentum for the day. Once you've established the basic practice, there are advanced techniques that can deepen the benefits. Meditation is crucial. Retention without meditation can lead to restlessness and agitation. Meditation helps circulate and refine the accumulated energy. Even 10 to 20 minutes daily makes a significant difference. Focus on breath awareness or body scanning practices. Breath work, particularly pranayama techniques from yoga, can powerfully transmute sexual energy. Practices like Bhastrika or Kapalabhati generate internal heat and move energy upward. Practice these daily, especially when you feel excessive sexual energy building. Cold exposure is incredibly effective. Cold showers in the morning train willpower and reduce sexual urges. Start with 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your regular shower. Build up to full cold showers. The immediate discomfort builds the capacity to sit with discomfort in general. Physical practices that involve the pelvic floor are powerful. Yoga, particularly poses that engage the lower body, squats and deadlifts in the gym, even specific Kegel exercises. These strengthen your physical capacity to control sexual energy. Some practitioners use visualization or energy work, imagining sexual energy rising from the genitals up the spine to the brain, visualizing it transforming from red to gold as it rises. Whether this is literal or metaphorical, practitioners report it helps manage the buildup of energy. For men in relationships, there are techniques for sexual activity without ejaculation, karezza, tantric practices, or simply developing the ability to stop before the point of no return. These require practice and communication with your partner, but they allow you to maintain intimacy while preserving your essence. The question eventually becomes, is this a temporary practice or a permanent lifestyle? For some men, retention is a periodic practice. They might do 30 to 90-day periods of strict retention when they're pursuing specific goals or need peak performance. Outside these periods, they practice moderation, ejaculating occasionally, never compulsively. For others, retention becomes a permanent practice. They experience such profound benefits that returning to frequent ejaculation feels like choosing weakness over strength. Even in relationships, they practice non-ejaculatory sex or ejaculate only rarely for procreation. There's no single right answer. The key is conscious choice. Are you ejaculating because you chose to from a place of strength and intention? Or because you couldn't resist the urge from a place of weakness and compulsion? The goal isn't necessarily permanent retention for everyone. The goal is permanent freedom from compulsive sexual behavior. Freedom to choose. Freedom to use your sexual energy as fuel for the life you want to build, rather than wasting it on fleeting pleasure. Let me share some real stories from men who've committed to this practice. There's the 28-year-old software engineer who was stuck in a dead-end job, overweight, addicted to pornography, and living with his parents. He started retention. Within 90 days, he'd lost 30 pounds, gotten promoted at work, moved into his own apartment, and started dating. He attributes all of it to the discipline and energy that came from retention. There's the 35-year-old who'd been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, medicated for years. He started retention as a last resort. 6 months later, he was off old medications, running a successful business, and engaged to be married. He says retention gave him access to emotions and energy he thought were lost forever. There's the 42-year-old who'd been married for 15 years with a dead bedroom and mounting resentment. He started retention not to fix the marriage, but to fix himself. The confidence and presence he developed led his wife to become attracted to him again. Their relationship completely transformed. These aren't isolated cases. Browse any retention community online and you'll find hundreds of similar stories. Men transforming their health, their careers, their relationships, their entire lives. All from one practice, choosing not to ejaculate. But let's zoom out. Why does this matter beyond individual transformation? We're living in a crisis of masculinity. Men are more depressed, more anxious, more purposeless than ever in recorded history. Suicide rates among men are epidemic. Testosterone levels have been declining for decades. Men are less employed, less educated, less likely to marry, less likely to have children than previous generations. Why? Many factors, but one stands out: the complete loss of self-discipline and delayed gratification. Modern life offers unlimited instant pleasure. Pornography, video games, social media, junk food, drugs, entertainment on demand. Why do anything hard when you can feel good right now? This is destroying men. Because growth requires discomfort. Achievement requires sacrifice. Meaning requires struggle. When you train yourself to always choose comfort over challenge, you become weak. And weak men create bad times for everyone. Retention is training in delayed gratification, in choosing long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, in tolerating discomfort for growth. These are the exact capacities that modern men lack and desperately need. If enough men reclaimed sexual self-discipline, we'd see a renaissance of masculine achievement. More businesses built, more families formed, more problems solved, more beauty created, because those things require the focused, sustained, disciplined effort that only comes from men who've mastered themselves. This isn't just personal development, it's cultural renewal. Every man who chooses discipline over degeneracy is striking a blow against the forces that want men weak, distracted, and controllable. So here's where we end, with the same choice we started with. You can continue living the way most men live. Scrolling, stimulating, releasing, repeating, getting weaker, getting more tired, getting more depressed, achieving less, becoming less. Or you can choose the harder path. The path of discipline, the path of retention, the path that demands everything from you but gives you back something infinitely more valuable: yourself, your full power, your full potential, your full life. This isn't easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. But because it's hard, it's valuable. Because it demands everything, it gives everything. The ancient warriors knew this. The spiritual masters knew this. The great achievers throughout history knew this. Your sexual energy is your creative force, your life force, your power. You can waste it on pixels and fleeting pleasure. Or you can conserve it, refine it, transmute it into everything you're capable of becoming. The choice is yours. It always has been. The question is, what will you choose?